Hmm. Does yours say the podcast is not available?
Where you, I just
When you
see.
look at the tweet?
Oh, it looked like it was loading. Let me see.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Yeah, no, it's. I see the show starts soon.
It's going?
Yep.
Nice one. They can all hear this, so bit of behind the scenes for everybody who's logged in already. Welcome. All right, let's get going.
Oh, great ball, sent cross. Yeah! Thank you! It's just not a dream! Dream fun! Live it up, blue boy! Live it up!
Hey, everybody, it's the Noisy Neighbors podcast. I'm today's host, Molv. My front man, Joey, is at work. Unlucky, mate. So I've wrangled a guest. It's another Joe. He's
Also at work, but made the
oh,
time.
are you? Yes, I love that bomber jacket, by the way. That is
Thank you.
nice. Yeah, he's not English, but he's New English. Is that fair?
I'll give you that. I'll allow it. Yeah.
Okay. Do you call yourself a New Englander, or you say, "Well, I'm New English"?
I think New Englander is more of what we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
We don't
Fair
want to
enough.
give you guys too much credit, so
New Hampshire, is that right?
yeah.
Yeah. Nice one. Nice one. Okay. Well, whoo. City have just beaten Brighton 3-0. Tale of two halves. The
At its
classic tale,
finest.
the
At
classic
its
tale of
finest.
two halves. Yeah, nerves at halftime after going 45 minutes without looking amazing.
Mhm.
Dealt well with Brighton, I think, but um, kind of shocking in the final third was my thoughts.
And it's funny because normally when City have halves like this, it feels like Pep will keep the same 11 at the start of the second half, and he's usually saying it just hasn't, the final ball hasn't been there, but they've played well. I don't think that was really the case today. I don't think they played all that well in the first half, but
Mm-mm.
with an injury to Ake, I don't think he was going to try to change anything at half. And like you said, tale of two halves at its very finest today.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're gonna make this pretty quick, I think. About half an hour. Not your typical noisy pod live stream. Uh, short and sweet, like me. Uh, appreciate everybody in the chat. I see the smoke show has turned up. Nice one, Big Don, the icon from the last call-in show. We've got a big sit down Lewis Dunk here. Amen. Sit down Lewis Dunk. He's a bit gobby, too gobby for me,
Right.
isn't he? Yeah. Um, appreciate everybody. Gaz is in the chat.
Legend.
Yes, he is. I'll do his song next time. A song for him. So let's talk about feelings coming in, mate, because we had a disappointing weekend.
Mhm.
Um, just quickly, your thoughts on the FA Cup semi-final. What was it? Was it a match too far?
Y- Yeah, disappointing might not even be the term I would have put for it. My expectations weren't that high. It's
Mm,
very rare that I predict City to lose a match, and I think there's been plenty of reasons that have been cited as to why. The biggest one, obviously, being travel and the assault that took place in Madrid. Um,
very true. Yeah.
so it felt like for City to win, and I don't want to paint them as the underdog, but if they were going to win at the weekend, it would have taken something pretty special. Um, so you know, credit to Liverpool, they played well for the most part, but I don't really hold anything against the 11 that Pep put out. I
Yeah.
don't hold the Stefan decision against him personally. Yeah, I wasn't that upset, to be honest.
Yeah. Found myself feeling the same way afterwards. Not too upset.
Right.
Sort of shrugged my shoulders. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool prepared themselves really well for that.
Hmm.
In that, you know, luck played a bit of a part in terms of who their midweek Champions League match was against and how
Exactly.
they did in it and how well they did in the first leg. City, on the other hand, like you said, against Madrid, just an absolute slog, just kicking each other to bits, you know,
Hmm.
and coming out with 1 or 2 injuries and tired legs, I'm sure.
What did Pep say? 71 treatments came
Is
from
that
the
right?
match, like such a
Oh,
random
wow.
number and whatever that means. But yeah, I mean they were beat up, and I think that what really stung the most was it just keeps that quadruple alive for
Yes.
Liverpool. Like obviously winning wouldn't have guaranteed an FA Cup, but if nothing else, it would have taken that away from Liverpool, and that would have been sweeter for me than anything.
The only bit of solace I can take out of this whole quadruple talk is that it's not Manchester United. You know what I mean? And it's Liverpool.
Right.
Because United are still just that little bit
Exactly.
more annoying to me than Liverpool.
I think we all agree on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just very quickly, in terms of how City can improve when it comes to this time of year,
Hmm.
and everything is come the crunch, as they say. I've seen some people bandying about ideas that include using more of the youth players, of the kids throughout the season to maybe so to keep things fresh later on. I've seen other people just say, we just need to be more clinical, and a
Hmm.
striker would help. And I think that one suggests that if you're more clinical, you might not need to play. You might have scored more in the first leg against Madrid, and have been able to do what Liverpool did
Right.
in the second leg, right? So that's another suggestion. Are you leaning towards one or the other, or do you have a different idea about how, at this point in the season, City can not suffer with, rotation problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think the kids aspect and really, I mean, if you look at today's bench, it was Lavia and Cole Palmer were the people that fall under that category. I mean, Lavia's not he won't feature for City the rest of the season. He hasn't featured in cup matches really, and that's such an important position. I think that's asking way too much. And for Palmer, I think if he had stayed fit, obviously he's been off for months. I think if he had stayed fit, we saw how well he played against Everton earlier this year. I actually think he could be involved in matches like this from a substitution, being kind of that second or third player off the bench. But again, I think you're asking too much for a player of his age. He's only 19 and he's been off for 2-3 months, COVID injuries. There was debate about getting surgery. So I think kind of going the youth route is at this stage just not realistic. Um, I mean, for me, it does feel like City are a little too, I don't want to say robotic, but things just seem too coordinated at this point. You look at the goals today, for example, they took chances. They just took shots, and you weren't seeing that in the first half. Sometimes it's as simple as just getting shots on target, moving the ball that just a bit quicker can make such a difference. We didn't see that at all in the first half. Things were slow. Um, I, I think that midfield three of Rodri, Gundogan, and Kev is not City's best. Granted,
Mm.
Pep doesn't have many other options at the moment.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm just really distracted by the purple bomber jacket. Is it purple or is it maroon?
It's maroon.
It's maroon. Can I get some flames in the chat for the maroon bomber jacket, please? It's just, it's.
I
You're
got it
just,
in Manchester.
you're dripping on them, mate. It's great.
I
Okie
appreciate
doke.
it.
As far as the kids angle goes, I can think of 4 or 5 times this season, and I'm thinking that's a small number,
Mhm.
but times that I thought that Pep could have used a youth player. Thank you, Jason Wagner. We got at least one One flame in the chat. Thank you.
It's spicy.
Jacob says Uwe's granddad wore that jacket. Nice one. And Colby's having a jacket. Three flames. We love it. We love to see that. I can think of 4 or 5 times. I'll just give you a couple. The first one is the right back, Egan Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Was on the bench in the first leg of the Champions League.
Yep.
Didn't play in the second leg, and that's when Kyle Walker got his dodgy red card, right? And missed 3 matches. I thought that because it was a dead rubber that second leg. You could have easily played Egan Riley there instead of risking Walker. Now, don't get me wrong, Walker's an idiot, but I mean,
not his finest hour.
I'm a risk averse person, right? Like I wouldn't Walker wouldn't have seen the pitch in that game for me. Anyway, I think
there's just not many options at this point, right? Like I think the only one. So what was interesting, and it's probably fixture basis, Delap and McAtee weren't on the bench today.
Yeah.
For me, those are the next 2 in line until Cole Palmer gains any sort of match fitness that would even have any sort of consideration for playing at all this season. Again, I think at this point you have 6 Premier League matches and ideally 3 matches in the Champions League. So I think Pep's just going to roll with the guys that he has, and if it means that you're only diving maybe 3-4 deep into the squad after the initial 11, that's what it's going to have to be. It's been cited plenty of times how kind of small the squad is, and I know people laugh about that with the amount of money spent, but it's a fact. They have the smallest senior squad in the league, and two defenders went off today. I think Stones is ultimately going to be okay, but he did have to take himself off. So it's going to be, they call it the running for a reason, and it's going to be stressful. But I think these guys are prepared, and they've done it before, right? None of these players, I'm looking at today's lineup, bar Ake, haven't been in a run-in like this before. So I'm not ultimately worried about it. But I think going to the kids is just a little bit too risky at this point.
Okay. Well, I think I could talk forever about, the fallout from that game and the crunch this time of season, the depth of City's squad, and maybe we'll do that sometime together on another show. So let's switch gears towards today's game.
Mm-hmm.
The lineup was really strong.
It was strong. There was a lot of talent out there. I was a little skeptical about it at first, to be honest. I was happy to see. Well, the midfield, I guess, seeing Bernardo, Gundogan, and Kev all there, obviously Rodri has to start, felt a little bit unnecessary. I know Pep's thought process is probably Brighton are a side that can pressure really well. They can be tidy in possession. You want to also have as many midfielders as you can. But for me, I would have much rather seen Grealish.
Yeah.
Whether it be over Gundogan or Bernardo, I'm not sure. I guess in hindsight, probably Gundogan, just because Bernardo was brilliant. But the Jack thing's been kind of weird. Do you agree? Where hasn't really been playing much at all the past couple weeks. It seems like there's been ample opportunity, whether it be in midfield or attack, and I just feel like
he seems pretty reluctant to use him in the midfield, doesn't he?
Mhm.
I suppose he overused him earlier in the season. Do you remember he like wouldn't leave him out earlier in the season?
Yeah, he jumped right in.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, I think we semi-carried Jack for large parts of the season.
Yeah.
He wasn't awful, but and yeah, he holds onto the ball very well and can slow the game down when you need him to. But in terms of output, goals and assists wasn't great, and I almost felt like we carried him for large parts to try to get him up to speed, get him adjusted to the side, and that's fine. But now the crunch time, he's not playing. I guess it doesn't surprise me because right now, and when I saw this lineup, I thought there are shaggers in this lineup. Like these are we're not the most clinical side, but if we were to play our most clinical side, outside of Cole Palmer, who I think is a shagger, that was it. That was
Yeah.
it for me. I in that category, I put people like Gundogan, De Bruyne, Foden, Mahrez.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Bernardo can be a killer
yeah, yeah. I don't think of him that
relative
way
to
though.
City's side, right? Like,
Although
it's big
that's
picture, he's not.
2 goals in 2 games for the man. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
And being in the right place at the right time is half the battle, and
yeah.
that's kinda what he offers, is that in-game intelligence, so.
So, why did we struggle in the first half? Was it tempo? Was it just lack of edge in the final third?
It definitely feels a little bit of tempo. I thought there was a lot of sloppiness. I wasn't a huge fan of Cancelo at right back, and it feels like when he's in that right back position and he's on his favored right side, he feels a little bit more, freedom to roam, and sometimes that benefits City. Sometimes it hurts them. I think today in the first half in particular, he was turning the ball over too frequently. It's risk that he doesn't usually take on the left hand side. I think because he's not on his quote unquote favorite side. Um, so that to me stood out. And then I think tempo was a big thing. Midfield, it just felt very move the ball about, kind of see what happens, but um, it needed to be a touch quicker. And I think we saw that Mara's open goal opportunity, right? He takes an extra touch. Did he need to take that? No. And then you look in hindsight, look at the second half, and people were taking shots from farther out that created opportunities. They got deflections. They got you goals. So just being a little bit quicker, a little bit more decisive, is ultimately the difference this time of season.
Yeah, agree. I just want to let the chat know I am enjoying your comments very much. I'm focusing on Joe and what he's saying so that I can, be a good host. But I am enjoying the chatter very much. Gaz Brady says that he saw Riyadh have 2 blinding games as the false 9 last season and then never again. Typical Pep. I don't remember those, mate. You'll have to tell me which ones those were because I always think of him as our least potent false 9.
Yeah,
Yeah. Colby says one thing he saw in the second half is how Pep switched Mahrez and Bernie around a bit, which fared really well in the attack late. Yeah, that's a great point, Colby. I think one thing you can say about the 11 he put out there is that particularly the front players are very interchangeable. And I was for the first 10 minutes trying to figure out who was where.
right.
And
I mean,
they
I
just
think
seem to
João
be changing
Cancelo
all the
played on
time.
every part of the pitch throughout the
Yeah.
game. So
Yeah, him too. Yeah. So Zhao, you talked about Zhao at right back, and
Mhm.
yeah, I think the consensus is people prefer him on the left. It just seems more dangerous going forward. Although I thought on the right defensively today he was pretty good,
yeah,
because that can be the suspect part of his game.
I don't think it's a defensive thing as much as just sharpness. And I mean, he's played the most minutes of any City outfield player this season. City have played in probably the second most matches in the country behind Liverpool. So I think he's well overdue for a rest. He's not going to get it because of Walker being out and potentially now Ake. I think he's going to probably play every match here on out. But it's just little things, passing up certain opportunities to move the ball around rather than taking on 2 defenders.
Mm.
He can obviously pull off passes that nobody else in the world can at times, but I think again this time of season, risk and reward, there needs to be a balance there, and the more you cut down on the risk, the better. So that's really my only qualm. I mean, he's been brilliant all season, but he is going through a bit of a dip in comparison to what we saw earlier this season. So it's all relative.
A dip in creativity, it feels like,
Totally.
from quite a few players. To be fair, in fact, let's skip to the second half, where everything changed, and it seemed to be tempo that was different.
Mhm.
But I mean, they weren't they weren't classic goals, were they?
They're ones you'll take. You'll take them.
It took Kevin De Bruyne, doing his best Yaya Toure impression to just burst through the middle of Brighton, with 3-4 players clinging onto his back, and then a strange deflection that fell right to Mahrez,
Mhm.
who banked it off the goalkeeper. It looks like. So yeah, I mean, not a classic goal, but I think we were rewarded for the higher tempo and
Yep.
just a different attitude coming out. So that was good to see.
I think with the Mahrez goal too, it kind of epitomized the second half where City were just taking that extra step to get into the right goal scoring position, taking chances that maybe they were passing around to try to get the perfect goal in the
Mm,
first half.
yeah.
I mean, even Phil's goal is no different, right? You know, taking a shot that in hindsight maybe not the best shot to take, but it created an opportunity, and you know, you take the deflection, and that can be the difference between first and second place at the end of the season. So
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, yeah, Foden's was heavily deflected, am I right? But you have to shoot
uh,
there,
on the record,
and
it was
yeah.
a
I mean,
bit
it's
of a
like it's
deflection.
it's like we forced the issue and the goals
Yeah,
came. You know, they weren't the
exactly.
best, but we forced the issue and the goals came while keeping it tight at the back. We didn't give Brighton too much today. I don't know what the stats were for them.
Yeah, they had I mean, they only had 2 shots total.
Okay.
XG was 0.22, which, you
Okay.
know, typically they can create a pretty large amount. They don't always convert it, but um, yeah, no, City. I mean, I think City dominated this match in almost every aspect. They only had 1 shot on target too. So, you know, over 90 minutes for a side of Brighton's caliber, I think that's a job well done defensively. Again, it was more just about attack and being clinical, being more decisive with passes in the final third. And again, I don't know what Pep said at halftime, but it definitely worked.
Yeah, yeah. So we got just a few minutes left, Joe. Let's take a look at the chat. Charlie says good evening from Oldham. All right, Oldham in the
Shout out all.
house.
Yeah.
um, Patrick Holly wants to talk about Watford at the weekend. Any win will do, or chance to top up the goal difference. Interesting. Yeah. After yeah, we didn't even mention what happened yesterday at Anfield, as I think we all predicted what was going to happen.
Right.
They are so shit, mate. They are
They're
just so
awful.
bad, so
Harry
bad.
Maguire is reaching new levels of mediocrity.
He's the
It's
new Phil
painful.
Jones.
And Phil Jones was Phil Jones.
Yeah.
So.
It's- What a pairing. What
Oh
a
my
pairing.
gosh.
Just just
How the
just
mighty have
jokes.
fallen.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. How are you feeling about Watford, mate?
It's probably the only match the rest of the way I'll feel no nerves going into it, to be honest. And that, you know, I'm knocking on wood here because I don't want to jinx anything. But that's an interesting question that who was that? Patrick sent in, just because I, I agree with the goal difference matter, but to me, it's going to be very unlikely that there's a situation where the goal difference matters because of the current point tally in the league. I think again, one side's going to win out, and whoever does wins the league. So for me, it's about getting the job done, getting it done early. We talked about Liverpool against Benfica, right? They benefited from having a strong first leg where they could rotate into the
Yeah.
second leg. We have Madrid 4 days later, 3 days later, excuse me. So, and granted, it's at home, but I think getting the job done in the first half, if it's just a couple goals, and you know, obviously that's the ideal any match, but I think it's certainly doable against Watford, and just get ready for Madrid is really the game plan for
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Quickly from Michael Brooks on Ake. He says the players avoided passing the ball to him today as they didn't trust him. Calling for Zinni at halftime. So, and somebody else mentioned in the chat as a follow up, I think it was Colby, that Ake was definitely injured. Um,
Exactly.
but I think Michael's point is interesting in that we do, whenever Ake plays left back, it does feel like the other team lets us play through him,
Hmm.
because he's not the most, creative.
Exactly.
So I don't think he ever loses the ball, but his passing is just not very, you know,
He
creative.
he's not going to be the player that makes a line breaking pass, right?
Yeah,
Especially when you go from Cancelo at left back to Ake, there's a drop off. But I agree. I think today was more of a match
Zinni.
for Zinni. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
you're putting a midfielder at left back, and I think Ake's been one of City's best players for the past month. So that's not to knock on him. It's just more situational against your opponent. And I think Zinchenko. I don't. What did you think against Liverpool at the weekend? I thought he did well, all things
no, he
considered.
was
To
great. I was just about to make the comment that I think he's been underused, and
wildly underused.
that might have something to do with his mental state. I don't know.
Hmm.
Only Pep and he will know that. But
Yep.
if you take that out of the picture, he feels quite underused to me.
And for how underused he's been, I think he's performed very well. I mean, he's
Yeah.
playing, one every 6 matches maybe.
And those are the
So
type of players we need. Players who are willing to,
Totally.
not start every week, but come in and play at a high level. So yeah, I wonder if we might not see a bit more of him down the stretch here.
Well, I
Pep's,
think we'll
Pep's,
have to see him at the weekend, right? I mean, if Ake's out and
yeah,
Walker's
true.
probably out.
But I don't think Pep has ever had any worry playing Zinchenko down the stretch.
No.
It feels like
Well,
18,
19,
19.
he was
Yeah,
his left back the whole
yeah,
run, so
yeah, absolutely. Ginger Wiggs chiming in. The players are very tired. Cancelo fell to the floor at the final whistle. Felt the performance was littered with tiredness. Perhaps. I mean, I enjoy. I was thinking this against Liverpool. The first half we looked really tired, but then the
Oh, yeah.
second half seemed to turn it up. The same thing sort of happened today as well. So,
which
yeah,
is why I think it's important to get an early lead at the weekend, and if you can essentially get the job done in 45 minutes, take off a couple of key players, that
yeah,
at this
yeah,
stage of the season, that's going to be critical.
yeah, 100%, mate. So let's wrap this up in typical Joe Ricci style. Give me your the man a la mucha.
It's got to be Kev. It has
Kevin?
to be Kev.
Yeah. Okay.
He's hitting those heights where, like you mentioned, Yaya Toure, like he's truly Yaya Toure levels of unplayable at this
Yeah.
point. He picks up the ball, draws a defender, blows right by him, takes on 2 defenders, blows right by him. He's just, for playing with stitches in his calf, he doesn't look like it. I'll put it that way. He's far and away the best midfielder in the world, and I think he's putting up a campaign that's putting him near best player in the world. So yeah,
Ooh,
it's
let's go.
got to be Kev.
Thingy.
All right, give us your man of the match in the chat. We'll wrap up with that.
Who was yours, Mulv?
Yeah, he carried us. I thought.
He's gonna have to. That's the thing, especially
Yeah.
if we're if Zhao is losing a bit of a creative touch with fatigue. I think Kev's just going to be so critical.
Yeah, Gaz chiming in. Kev all day. Don Smoke. Kevin De Bruyne shout. Colby's gone for KDB. Yeah, looks like it's unanimous, mate. Shout out Bernardo for taking that cheeky first touch goal there.
Oh yeah,
That's
he was brilliant too.
Yeah.
He was good. I don't know how he still has the legs. I
was worried about his legs because I knew he had to play against Liverpool because he's like he always plays against Liverpool because he does that little help us get out of the back thing,
Yep.
which he didn't do that well, to be fair. But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up there, mate. I know you've got to go and I've got to do some things as well. Thank you so much for joining me, mate. Where can these find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Views of a Blue, and then our podcast at Main Road Ramble is on Twitter, Instagram, and if you feel like emailing us, by all means, mainroadramble@gmail.com for the sporadic ones that pop in. So yeah, you can find us there.
All right, Jacob wants to. Anytime, Jacob. That's that Mahrez. That's that Riyad Mahrez. Big goal today to get us off the schneid. So that's Joe. You can catch the Noisy Neighbors podcast every week on your podcast apps. That's me and Joey McCune talking all things Manchester City. Got a website, www.noisypod.com. Get on there. Links to our merchandise if you want to buy any silly t-shirts for the summer. You can do that. There's mugs, all sorts. On Twitter, we're at NoisyPod. Anytime with any questions, hashtag AskNoisyPod. We'll be back again soon. Thanks again, Joe. Appreciate you, pal.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And until next time, ta-ra.
Cheers.